How's it going, guys? I'm Matt Torx, and today on my noble quest to play every single game released in the Elder Scrolls series and rank them in one big tier list at the very end, we're moving on to the Elder Scrolls Daggerfall. The successor to Elder Scrolls Arena released in September of 1996, just 2 years after the original one. The game aimed to expand upon the role-playing aspects and the world of Tamriel, while fixing up some of the issues from the first game, which would end up working in their favor, as by the year 2000, Daggerfall had sold 700,000 copies worldwide. Impressive when compared to the 120,000 copies that Elder Scrolls Arena sold in the same time frame. And the numbers did not lie, as Daggerfall improved upon its predecessor in so many big ways that would all be vital to the modern success of this franchise as we know it now. Things like better controls, 3D graphics, way more skills and classes, more enemy and NPC variety, an in-depth dialogue system, an emphasis on fantasy and role-playing, and more. But to feel these differences for ourselves, it's time we play The Elder Scrolls Daggerfall in 2024. Upon starting this game, like always, we get to create our character, and after choosing the normal things out of a character menu that you'd expect, like name, race, and class, I get a little surprised by how many different aspects we get to customize after that, like proficiencies in weapons, background, special skills, and starting items, all brand new ways to make each character unique on any given playthrough. The game seems to have borrowed this system of creation from Dungeons & Dragons, which is a pretty good thing as that game has one of the best character creations from my limited experience. But for my very first character, we get to see the return of Gus as a Nord barbarian this time around. Then we get a lore drop to explain the background of this game and world. We find ourselves talking to Uriel Septim VII in this pretty cool live-action cutscene that reminds me of the 3D Mortal Kombats.
Sora! I cut her off. She won't be joining us. Just you and me.
I need no help.
He tells us the story of Lysandus, the king of Daggerfall, who after death was cursed to wander the lands of Daggerfall as an angry spirit, still chained to his earthly prison. The king requests that we journey to the lands of Daggerfall and find a way to put his spirit at rest. He also gives us a second task before we set sail, to find out what happened to the nudes that the Emperor sent to the former Queen of Daggerfall a long time ago. So given our orders, we set sail for Daggerfall to start our journey. But unfortunately, our ship crashed on the outskirts of this Isle of Daggerfall, and in a frightened hurry, we were able to get ourselves lost in an underground cave, thus thrusting us into another underground dungeon to start our quest. Luckily, this time through, we actually get a tutorial to teach us the mechanics that come in the form of text boxes that pop up at certain points throughout the cave. The tutorial covers basic things like movement, looting, combat, and interacting with the game environment. Speaking of movement, some of you amazing people in the comments on the last video pointed out that I can actually use the arrow keys to move in these games, as opposed to clicking on parts of the screen, as these games tell you to do. Now don't get me wrong, the movement in both games isn't good by any definition of the word, but the overall improved movement, combined with using the arrow keys, definitely made it so that I didn't struggle quite as much this time around. As for some other changes that I noticed between Arena and Daggerfall, the graphics feel and look more 3D, and the menus are a huge step up in depth and quality. But other than that, this opening cave is pretty straightforward. Grab your weapons, kill some enemies, and explore the area. That was until I ran into this little imp dude, who has a resistance to all physical damage, making my sword just bounce off him as he curb stomped Gus into the ground. Now something else that I messed up in my last video was not knowing I could save my progress on one character instead of cycling through new dudes faster than your mother. But unfortunately, I forgot to save Gus when I created him. So once again, we say goodbye to a true hero, and hello to Abraham, my character for the rest of this video. He's a battle mage from the lands of Hammerfell, who can hopefully use his knowledge of magic and save files to learn how to best take down this dungeon. So we go through all the motions once again, this time running past the imp. Eventually we got to the grand central staircase in the middle of the dungeon, and here I got a little lost. The room had 3 floors, and about 2 hallways on each side, so it wasn't exactly clear where to go. But after going to each of the rooms and dying to the enemy inside without any real progress, I decided to lock in. And after a longer time period than I'd like to admit, I found out that the true path to escape was actually by pulling a very hard to reach lever on the side of this throne in the middle, and riding a platform up to the very top. From there it was as simple as sprinting down a hallway and escaping out of a black door into a sprawling and vibrant snowy landscape. Now cold and lost with no real direction, I decided to just start heading south, as by my logic it's colder up north, so less people want to live there. Unless of course they're Canadian, in which case I should have stocked up on shitty beer and hockey pucks. But luckily for me, by heading south for long enough, I did find some people that weren't Canadians. Instead, I found a pretty large town called Gothaway Gardens. Now this town was actually a really helpful start, since it had an inn for me to rest in, shops to buy and sell goods, and plenty of NPCs to ask questions and learn about the surrounding area. I made sure to ask about the location of the former queen and any info about the Blades, a legendary group of warriors. But once I was well informed, well supplied, and well rested, I set off on my journey south to try and escape this freezing climate. But with my luck, not too long after starting my walk, the music changed to be more eerie and sinister, and I was jumped and killed by this weird zombie Draugr thing that kinda wrecked me without any chance of survival. So I spawned right back at the town I was just in about 15 minutes ago. Because I was killed trying to travel during nighttime, I thought it would be a good idea to try and rest until the morning to pass time and make my journey a bit safer. But instead I got arrested and spent the night in jail, because apparently it's illegal to be homeless in Daggerfall, just like most major US cities. So now fresh out of prison and thoroughly traumatized, I decided to just aimlessly wander around without any real direction. That was until I accidentally pressed the W key and pulled up a map of the entire region. Now what made this tool really interesting is that this map allows you to actually fast travel around the entire massive area, which I had only been in a small region of this entire time. So given this new tool, I started by hitting some nearby dungeons, fighting the creatures inside, wandering around catacombs, and looting any piece of gear I could find. And since it's been a couple of hours since I started recording and I'm officially dripped out, this is going to be where I end things for now. Wrapping this video up as always with my final thoughts on the game. I think it honestly does a really good job at expanding upon the world of the Elder Scrolls that was created before it in all the ways that matter, while still having its own unique merits to stand upon. I like pretty much all of the changes when it comes to graphics and controls. I think the improvement to the menu and UI are really helpful when it comes to actually understanding what's going on with your character. And all the new role-playing elements really helped me feel immersed and connected to my character. The only two real complaints I have is that I think the music in the first one was better, and that I wish the tutorial taught you a little bit more than just the basics. And guys, that is going to be it for the Elder Scrolls Daggerfall. Now if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Because as cliche as it sounds, over 99% of people who watch my videos aren't subscribed. Anyway, if you got all the way to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.